From Parisian streets to prehistoric predators, the CIT Winter Launch collection has something for everyone. Let's get into it. We open with impact, real impact. There are few traffic circles on Earth as instantly recognizable or as gloriously unruly as the Arc de Triomphe. 12 avenues converging without painted lines, and by nightfall the flow of headlights become a kind of controlled turbulence, half ballet, half brinkmanship. Ville de Nuit Paris freezes this spectacle from above, a nocturnal aerial view, precise and unapologetic. Smartmonting provides the depth, allowing the avenues to flare outwards from the arc like fiery pokes of light, while the surrounding architecture rises in crisp side elevation. CIT leans into the precision, with each of the 12 avenues is named, and along the edge, all 12 arrondissements appear in fine microminting. There is nothing timid here. It is structural, intentional, and meticulous. Modern minting, fully aware of its own capabilities, and unafraid to display them. We end the historical monument series not with spectacle but with gravitas. The Jefferson Memorial is a deliberate choice, a new classical temple on the tidal basin, inspired by the Pantheon built to honor the author of the Declaration of Independence. Symmetry, columns, a dome that feels less constructed and more resolved. CIT translates that architecture into sculpture. Both the 2 and the 5-ounce formats stand freely, almost like mini facades. The double-sided ultra-high relief reveals the coffered dome ceiling on each side, creating real dimensional depth rather than simple surface modeling. There's no color, no theatrical contrast, just antique finish, shadow, and structure. The weight of the piece matches the weight of the subject. And as a series finale, it doesn't shout. It closes with a type of dignified restraint, and that definitely feels intentional. Now we pivot decisively into monumentality. The Genghis Khan trilogy draws directly from the colossal statue unveiled in March 2025, portraying him not as a distant legend, but as the young ruler at the threshold of empire. The composition echoes that same scale, enthroned, composed, almost inevitable. The 1-ounce silver-proof, limited to just 1,500 pieces, sets the tone. Khan sits in meticulous high relief, robes cascading, throne richly detailed. Radiant sunbeams spread out from behind him, while the Mongolian steppe anchors the scene in geometry as much as history. On the reverse, a commanding eagle, symbol of both strength, freedom, and enduring cultural identity, connects the design to Mongolia's living tradition of eagle hunting. The 1-ounce gold edition contracts the minting to just 100 pieces and expands the drama even further. Ultra-high relief intensifies the sculptural presence. A radial guilloche pattern surrounds the Mongol bank coat of arms, amplifying the sensation of light bursting outwards. The effect is ceremonial, almost liturgical, less of a coin as such, but an object of state. Then comes the half-a-gram gold issue, just 11 millimeters across, limited to 2,026 pieces. Small, yes, but impressively legible all the same, with the same core design distilled rather than simplified. This is the entry point, the accessible format for collectors who want participation without the commitment of a larger weight. 3 formats, 3 tiers of engagement, 1 figure whose shadow still stretches across continents. Next comes pride, the third chapter in the 7 Deadly Sins series. Tradition calls it the root vice, not loud or frantic, rather composed and assured. The sin that wears a crown instead of a snarl. CIT expresses that through the image of a lion and wisely resists exaggeration. This 1-ounce colored silver proof presents the animal standing firm and self-possessed. There's dominance here, but it's controlled. No aggression, no theatrics, just quiet supremacy. The restraint is the brilliance. Pride does not rage, it merely assumes. The subtle irony lands cleanly and clearly. A sin rendered with dignity, almost admiration. This series works because it understands that symbolism must be led. Spectacle, if it appears at all, follows. Then the tempo drops. Luminara isn't positioned as a coin as much as an object of intention, a modern amulet cast in silver. On the obverse, a radiant sun dominates the surface, its rays deeply textured, so the light seems to vibrate across the metal. The finish gives it a sense of movement, energy held in place. Flip it over and the design exhales. A minimalist crescent moon, quiet, balanced, and deliberate. And then the decisive detail, a pierced opening at the edge. This piece is meant to be worn in a launch that is filled with monumentality and spectacle. Luminara feels almost intimate by contrast, personal, less about display and more about connection. Whether you believe in talismans or not, the design respects the idea, and that makes it compelling. From ancient talismanic symbolism, we shift then to art history. Wave draws directly from Hakusai's The Great Wave of Kanagawa, not as a replica, but as reinterpretation in metal. Obsidian black silver forms the base as the coin tilts, light shifts, and travels across the curved lines, and the crest seems to gather and release. The effect is controlled, not that theatrical. No heavy coloration, no layered embellishments, just contrast, polish, and motion engineered into the surface. This is a piece that rewards patience. It doesn't demand attention, it earns it. Then we step into the contemporary. Bionic's Orchids takes one of nature's most refined forms and refracts it through a digital lens. The blossom glows in metallic violets and lilacs, the color shifting as light moves across the surface, giving the petals a living, almost kinetic presence. Overlaying that organic softness is a polygonal, low-poly structure, a crystalline lattice that feels engineered rather than grown. Geometry rests on biology, precision framing fragility. It is a confident fusion, natural elegance interpreted through modern design language. Not a traditional floral coin, but a study in contrast rather, where code meets chlorophyll, and the results feel unexpectedly harmonious. Art Deco enthusiasts, this one leans directly into your lane. Line art, the flamingo, strips the subject down to geometry and silhouette. The bird is rendered in stylized pink, simplified into clean, confident lines that echo classic Art Deco poster work. The entire surface is enameled, creating a smooth, lacquered finish rather than a traditional metallic texture. Suspended within this enamel are 24-karat gold flakes. They don't dominate, but they seem to drift. The effect adds depth and a quiet sense of motion beneath the polished surface. This piece will definitely divide opinion, and I suppose that is healthy. Modern numismatics shouldn't always aim at consensus. Rather, it should test the room, and this one does that with intent. Now the concept moves to the forefront. Head versus heart is built around tension, not spectacle. The concave curvature isn't decorative, but it pulls the eye inwards, physically reinforcing the internal struggle that the design portrays. One side, the head, is rendered in cool blues, disciplined, analytical, and controlled. On the other, the heart burns in saturated reds, instinctive, emotional, and alive. The chromatic divide is immediate, cold versus warm, calculating versus impulsive. What elevates the piece is that it trusts the viewer. It doesn't overcomplicate the metaphor. It stages it clearly, then lets the form do the rest. This isn't simply a colored coin. It's a study in duality, and one of the most intellectually grounded releases in this entire launch. And then the clowns, or Coulrophobia, the fear of clowns, becomes the third installment in the Phobias series, and it does not attempt to be subtle at all. The exaggerated makeup, the frozen smile, the expression that hides more than it reveals. Everything about the design leans into that psychological discomfort. The ultra-high relief amplifies that unease, pushing the figure forward so it feels uncomfortably present, as though it might cross the boundary of the coin itself. Enameled and intense colorization highlight the theatricality even further, but they also serve to sharpen the menace. This is not designed to be pleasant. It's designed to provoke. And whether you find it fascinating or deeply unsettling, that reaction is precisely the point. And now we arrive at the heavyweights. The Tiffany Art Series shifts direction with portraits pairing two architectural statements on a single canvas: the ornate facades of the Milan Cathedral and the entrance to the St. Ludmila Church in Prague. It's a dialogue set in stone. Gothic intricacy meeting Central European grandeur. Rimless minting removes the boundary. Ultra-high relief builds real depth. The antique finish sets the stage, while luminous green Tiffany glass bridges both facades, acting as both window and connective tissue. It's sculptural numismatic architecture. From there, we head back to deep time. Carcharodontosaurus, the shark-toothed lizard, roaming roughly 100 million years ago. A predator measuring up to 13 meters in length, armed with serrated teeth, built for shearing flesh. It's often compared to the T-Rex, though the two were separated by tens of millions of years. They never actually met. The rivalry exists only in our imaginations. This 1-ounce silver issue anchors that scale in something that is tangible. Each coin contains a genuine fossilized tooth fragment from an actual Carcharodontosaurus. Not an impression, not a replica, a physical remnant of a creature that hunted in the Cretaceous. The ultra-high relief frames and embeds the fragment with drama, but the fossil does the real work. This isn't symbolic prehistory, it's prehistory itself set in silver. And finally, we close with Impact. Thunder Dragon stages a confrontation between two archetypes: the disciplined samurai and the elemental dragon. Steel meets myth. Honor meets raw force. It's a composition built on tension. The concave strike intensifies the drama, pulling the center inward, so the dragon feels like it's surging out of the surface. Ultra-high relief sharpens every contour, while saturated color ignites the scene in tones of fire and storm. There's no real restraint on this one either. The atmosphere is charged, almost volatile. It's bold, theatrical, and embraces spectacle unapologetically. As a finale, it doesn't fade out, but rather strikes. So that is the CIT Winter Launch 2026. 13 coins, wildly different themes, consistently aggressive technical execution. Some of these will sell out instantly. Some will divide opinion, while a few will quietly become future conversation pieces. And honestly, that is exactly what modern numismatics should do. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.